Okay, now we'll look at some equations that have fractions in them, but the fractions aren't coefficients. Okay, the fractions aren't being multiplied, they're being added. So we have a couple of ways to get out of this, but one very good way is to clear the fractions, because adding and subtracting fractions requires a common denominator, least common denominator. And so if we could use that common denominator in a different way, then we end up not having to add and subtract fractions. So the way we use the common denominator is to clear the fractions. So we look and we see two denominators, 12 and 6, and the common denominator for those two fractions would be 12. So what we do is we multiply both sides of the equation by the number 12. On the left we have two terms now to distribute the 12, and on the right just one. So this would be 12 times 1/12 plus 12 times x. On the other side we have 12 times -5/6. Now remember, if we need it to, 12 can be over 1. So for our fractions we might want that to happen. So we know that we need to do our multiplying before we do any adding or subtracting. This is a multiply fractions. This 12 over 12 cancels to 1. And so that whole multiplication here turns to the number 1. 1 over 1 is 1. Plus 12 times x is not a fraction, it's just 12x. Over here, 12 over 6, they both divide by 6 for 1 and 2. That leaves us denominator 1s we don't have to write, so now we have 2 times -5 for -10. Okay, we need to get the variable term by itself, so to zero out this 1 would take a -1 or a plus a -1. And that zeroes out here, leaving us 12x is equal to -11. And our last step then is to divide by 12. I'm out of room there, so out to the side. I'm going to put x is equal to -11/12. Now that's a simplified negative fraction. Let's work another one like that. All right, here's another equation with a fraction. Now this one is a coefficient, isn't it? This fraction is being multiplied by the x, so we'll end up using a reciprocal. But not first. Okay? First we want to isolate the variable term. So how do we zero out the +2? Actually it's a -2. How do we zero out a -2? With a +2 on both sides, +2. So that gives us 1/4 x is equal to 8. And now we need to isolate the variable multiplying by the reciprocal. Remember, this is a coefficient. It's multiplied. We have to get rid of it with multiply by the reciprocal. So it's 4 over 1. 8 times 4 over 1, both sides. And we can get the 8 to look like over 1 if we need to. And now over here, remember, 4's cancel. Everything cancels. We have x by itself. And 8 times 4, we have only one denominator, so 8 times 4 is 32. Okay. That one's very similar to the one before it. So let's just stop with this last one. Okay, this one has lots of fractions in it, lots of fractions. So one thing we could do is get rid of all the fractions. So what we need to do is look at all the denominators, 5, 5, 10, 2, 2, and spend some time deciding what is the least common denominator. So after some thought process, you decide 10 is the least common denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by 10. Alright, and so on the left we have to distribute twice because we have two terms. On the right we have to distribute 3 times. So we're going to be using 10 a lot here as a multiplier. So first we have 10 times 7 over 5 plus 10 times 3/5 x is equal to 10 times 21 over 10 plus 10 times 7 over 2x plus 10 times 1 over 2. And now remember, anywhere we need to, 10 can be over 1. Alright. Now let's go through and multiply and see what we can cancel. 10 over 5. Well, 10 and 5 both divide by 5, leaving 1 and 2. 10 over 5, that leaves also 1 and 2. 10 over 10 leaves 1 and 1. 10 over 2 leaves 1 and 5. And 10 over 2 leaves 1 and 5. And now let's go back through, see what we have. Denominators are 1 everywhere, so we're not writing any denominators. Numerator here is 2 times 7 for 14, plus 2 times 3x for 6x is equal to 21 plus 5 times 7x, 35x, plus 5 times 1. Okay. Now, this looks like something we've done earlier this evening, so we're going to collect like terms. So what's like here? On the left side we have no like terms yet. On the right side we have 21 plus 5 for 26 plus 35x. Now let's get our x's to one side. Let's zero out this. Negative 35x plus negative 35x. And that gives us negative 35x plus 6x is negative 29x plus 14. And on this side we have 26, and our x terms zero out. Okay. Now how can we zero out the 14? Well, we can add a negative 14 to both sides. And that gives us negative 29x is equal to 12. And then we need to divide both sides by negative 29. Okay. That gives us x is equal to negative 12/29. And we need to check to see if that fraction will simplify. So the smaller number is 12. It divides by 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And 29 doesn't divide by any of those, so we know that that's a simplified fraction. It's negative and it's simplified. Okay, that should be it.